All right, so to factorize monic trinomials, let's first figure out what these words mean. So trinomial means we have three terms. Okay, we have a quadratic term, we have a linear term. Quadratic means x squared, linear x to the power of 1, and then some constant, right? So the word monic tells us that the coefficient of x squared is equal to 1, but we represent 1 times x squared as just x squared, okay? So to factorize monic trinomials, we have a unique technique that we'll be using to solve these quadratic equations. So we notice that we can't use our difference of two squares technique that we just discussed because we don't have something in the form of x squared minus something, right? We have this linear term now, x to the power of 1 to worry about. So when we want to factorize monic trinomial expressions, we need to look for two numbers whose product is equal to the constant term, which in this case is positive 10, and whose sum is equal to the coefficient of x, which is 7 in this case. All right, so let's start listing pairs of factors of 10. So 10 times 1, that doesn't work because the sum of 10 and 1 is 11, not 7. The only other pair we have is 5 and 2, which happens to work in this case because 10 is equal to 5 times 2 and 7 is equal to 5 plus 2, okay? So now that we found our numbers, all we have to do is put them into our brackets as follows. Oops. Five and 2. Let's double check that it gives us what we want in our heads. Okay, so x times x is of course x squared. 5x plus 2x gives us 7x, right? That's why we looked for the numbers whose sum is 7. And now the product of the two constant terms, 5 times 2 gives us 10, right? That's why we looked for two numbers whose product is the constant term. Okay, now we can just use null factor like always and say that our two options are x plus 5 is equal to 0 or x plus 2 is equal to 0, right? Giving us x is equal to minus 5 if we subtract, oops. If we subtract 5 from both sides, or if we subtract 2 from both sides of the equation on the right, we get x is equal to minus 2. Okay, now to verify that this is the correct answer in our heads, let's say we don't have access to a calculator, let's plug in x is equal to minus 5. Okay, minus 5 squared is positive 25. Okay, so 25 plus 7 times minus 5 is minus 35 plus 10. Okay, 25 minus 35 minus 10 plus 10 gives us 0. Okay, so we know minus 5 is one of our solutions. What about minus 2? Minus 2 squared is 4. Minus 2 times 7 is minus 14 plus 10 is equal to 4 minus 14 minus 10 plus 10 is equal to 0. So minus 2 is another correct solution. Okay, now suppose that we have access to a calculator and we want to solve this in the most efficient way possible. Okay, so to solve an equation like this, we have several options actually. Menu, algebra, solve, right? This is when you can just type in the entire equation. So x squared plus 7x plus 10 is equal to 0. After you type in the equation, you have to tell the calculator what variable you want it solved for, which in this case is x, so comma x. Okay, and as expected, we get the same result as what we found by hand. Okay, so if you were asked to simply factorize x squared plus 7x plus 10, and you weren't solving for anything, so there's no equals to 0, you could go menu, algebra, factor, okay, and we only want to factor x squared plus 7x plus 10. So when there's no equal sign, this is known as an expression, not an equation, right? Equations always have equal signs. And you find the factorized form given to you. All right. Next example. This time we have some minus signs in there. So let's see if that makes our job harder. Same technique, right? We're looking for two numbers whose product is the constant term, which is -3, and whose sum is the coefficient of x, -2. Okay. Pairs of factors of -3. So we have 3 and -1, but the sum of 3 and -1 is +2, not -2. So that means we have to choose -3 and 1, right? Because -3 is equal to -3 times 1, -2 is equal to -3 plus 1, okay? So because we've chosen these numbers, again, all we have to do is go -3, okay? The signs clearly do matter, and +1, okay? Let's check by hand that this gives us what we want. So x times x is of course x squared, -3 times x plus 1 times x is -2x. And then -3 times +1 is -3. Okay, now by null factor, we should start to be able to do this in our heads, right? We can immediately write down that x is either +3 or -1. Okay, quick verification in our heads. 3 squared is 9. 9 minus 2 times 3 is 6. 9 minus 6 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, same thing with x equal to -1. -1 squared is +1. 1 minus 2 times -1 is going to be the same as 1 plus 2, right, which is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. So both of these solutions are correct. Let's practice using our CAS to solve equations. Okay, once again, menu, algebra, solve. Okay, type in the equation, x squared minus 2 times x minus 3, minus 3 is equal to 0, comma, x, because we're solving for x. X is equal to -1 or 3. Okay, that matches our solution.